Jehovah's Witnesses, the only organization that's preaching the good news. Do you know of anyone else who preaches about God's kingdom from house to house throughout the world? Jehovah's Witnesses are the only ones doing the preaching work as Jesus instructed. Or at least that's what the Watchtower says anyway. According to them, Jesus commanded us to preach from house to house. So the next time a witness comes to your door, ask them, where in the Bible does Jesus command us to go from house to house? Where does the Bible say that door-to-door preaching is a requirement for the true religion? Chances are more likely than not that they're going to respond with two scriptures, Matthew 24:14 or Matthew 28:19. And while these scriptures do admonish us to go and make disciples, you'll notice that they don't say anything about door-to-door preaching. So kindly re-ask your question, where in the Bible does Jesus command us to go from house to house? They're probably not going to be able to answer your question. But don't worry, the Watchtower did teach them how to respond.
Thank you for raising such an interesting question. To be honest, I don't know the answer, so I'll look into your question and get back to you.
Such a candid, modest approach may well pave the way for further discussions. This will give the witness an excuse to come back to your house to talk to you more. They'll do this after they find you an answer, and at the end of the month, when they turn in their tally sheet that tracks their hours of preaching work, they will mark you down as what is called a return visit. You'd be on your first step to becoming a part of Jehovah's earthly organization. Or we can save them the trouble of them returning to our home. And show them right now where that term house to house appears in the New World Translation. There are 3 instances of that phrase, 2 in Acts. We'll go ahead and look at those now. If you don't use the New World Translation, you might not be familiar with the phrase house to house being in the book of Acts. The reason is, other Bible translate the Greek kada oikos as at home, privately, or in every house. Actually, if you look at the footnote in the reference version of the New World Translation, you will see that the Watchtower actually acknowledges the Greek here means according to house. So what are the Greek words for the term house to house? Well, oikia, eis, oikia. You can actually find this term house to house in Luke 10:7. This is actually the only place you are going to find the term house to house, speaking in reference to preaching to non-believers. Jesus is sending out his disciples to preach, and he is giving them very specific instructions. He says to them, do not be transferring from house to house. So why then is the Watchtower telling its members that Jesus commanded them to go house to house? Is it the best way to increase their members? The Watchtower says that Jehovah's Witnesses are well known for their effective house-to-house ministry. Well, let's take a look. Last year's publishing statistics are located at jw.org. There will be a link in the description if you would like to check these numbers. Now, the hours spent in the preaching work was 1,669,000,000 901,531 hours, and the number baptized was only 241,994. Most of these baptized were mostly children or relatives, maybe even a friend of a current member. A very generous estimate would be that roughly 100,000 of the baptisms last year were actually the result of door-to-door preaching. This would mean it takes Jehovah's Witnesses 16,699 hours of preaching to result in a single baptism. The average rank-and-file witness preaches about 10 hours each month, so that would mean it would take 124 years before getting one baptism. It really starts to be a laughing matter when you realize that the Watchtower says angels are directing their preaching work. Jehovah might want to hire some new angels with the kind of results they are getting. Now, I have no problem with the door-to-door preaching. In fact, I think it's great. But what it all comes down to is the Watchtower is teaching that door-to-door preaching is the identifier of the true religion. But as we just saw, this is not a Bible teaching. The Bible does not specify how disciples are to preach. For the Watchtower to say that Jesus commanded us to preach from door to door, now this is a lie. They also tell their members that every other religion is false religion and will be destroyed at Armageddon. The Watchtower teaches an entirely different message than that of Jesus, and it's definitely not good news.